The Titans may have taken down the all-time GOAT last week, but this week they get the 2019 GOAT, and he is much trickier to try and wrangle. We've got 6 predictions headed your way, but first, here are some numbers you can use to come up with a prediction of your own. The Titans and Ravens offenses are actually very similar on paper. Baltimore, of course, sports the league's top rushing attack.
Jackson. Oh, he's able to slip away. They had him.
Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram both went over 1,000 yards and both averaged 5 or more yards a carry, which is remarkable. They put up those numbers by using more run-pass option plays than anyone else in the league.
1st and 10 from the 25. Jackson will carry it himself.
NFL defenses really have little experience facing anything like what Baltimore has been rolling at them. But even though their ground game leads the way for their offensive attack and their passing game only ranked 27th in yards per game, it does not mean they aren't more than capable of moving the ball through the air.
Mark Andrews one-on-one.
Touchdown, Marquise Brown.
Jackson led the league in TD passes and put up 113.3 passer rating. So it wasn't a matter of them avoiding a weakness by running a lot. They simply run the ball so well, they don't need to throw a lot. Which, as you saw in their win over New England last week, is exactly what the Titans' offense is predicated on.
Henry finally seeing some running room for the first time since the first quarter.
If Jackson represents the new era of NFL runners, then the NFL's rushing leader, Derrick Henry, is your throwback rep, because there's nothing tricky about the way he gets things done. Henry put up his 7th 100-yard game of the season last week. The Titans are 7-0 in those games. And like Baltimore, Tennessee also features a passing attack that doesn't get as much play. They rank 21st in yards per game, but like the Ravens, it doesn't mean it's not almost as dangerous.
Tannehill under pressure, going to throw it deep, has his man open down the middle of the field, and he's got him. A.J. Brown to the end zone for the touchdown.
Ryan Tannehill has been a revelation for the Titans, his season numbers dazzling in several categories, most notably his passer rating, which was a league-leading 117.5. His outing against the Patriots was his roughest of any start he's made this season, but he wasn't called on to try and do too much due to Henry's effectiveness. But on top of rating, Tannehill also led the league in yards per attempt and yards per completion, the Titans finishing tied for 8th when it comes to pass plays of 20-plus yards.
From the 25, Tannehill throws, and finally A.J. Brown with a reception.
And this is where you get into some of the differences in their offenses, because when the Titans do throw, they like to hit big long, and that means they're targeting their receivers, A.J. Brown, the number 1 target. The Ravens, on the other hand, utilize tight ends heavily in their RPO offense, Mark Andrews leading the team in targets, receptions, yards, and TD passes.
Jackson keeps, throws, pass, caught, touchdown, Andrews.
Baltimore's top 3 tight ends had more targets, receptions, yards, and TD passes than its top 3 wideouts, so the Titans better be prepared to take on their big men. Problem is, that is not a position Tennessee has defended well. They rank 26th in yards allowed to tight ends this season, only 6 teams allowing the position to rack up more yards than them. Really, they weren't overly strong against the pass all year regardless of who was being thrown to, ranking 18th in passer rating, 24th in passing yards per game allowed, 25th in both yards per attempt and yards per completion allowed. Of course, they did fare much better against Tom Brady last week.
Brady's pass, it's intercepted and returned for a touchdown by Logan Ryan, the former Patriot.
But the Patriots' offensive passing woes have been well documented, so hard to put too much stock in that performance versus their season-long body of work. The Ravens' secondary, on the other hand, has quietly been one of the better units in the league this year.
Mayfield with pressure, that pass is going to be picked off. Completely influenced by the rush.
Baltimore holding opposing QBs to the 2nd lowest passer rating in the league and giving up the 6th fewest passing yards per game says a lot based on how often teams were chasing them on the scoreboard. But they also excelled at taking away what Tennessee's passing attack thrives on, which are those deeper passes.
2nd and 10, that ball is intercepted by guess who? Marcus Peters, who's back in LA.
The Ravens' pass rush plays a key role in their ability to prevent the deep ball because even though they didn't sack a lot of QBs, no team blitzed them more often. Baltimore sending an extra man over 50% of the time. Tannehill for the year, though, put up a passer rating of 116.4 against the blitz, throwing 6 TDs to just 1 pick.
Tannehill, end zone, touchdown, Tennessee.
Obviously, Tannehill should expect to see extra heat on third downs, and that's where Tannehill's armor sort of fades. The Titans are just 18th when it comes to converting third downs, which then keeps them from reaching the red zone as often as they'd like. They're just 25th in red zone attempts. Now, they're first when they actually get there, but their scuffling third down percentage has kept them from getting there more often. The Ravens, meantime, were 11th best at preventing teams from moving the chains on third down, and were even better when it came to red zone defense. 6th best at keeping teams from getting there, and 3rd best at keeping teams from scoring a TD even when they did.
Pass is intercepted. Right into the waiting arms of Chuck Clark.
But the real question for the Ravens D, how will they handle King Henry? The Ravens didn't allow a lot of rushing yards per game. In fact, they were 5th best. But they did allow 4.4 yards a carry, and that ranked 21st. Most teams just couldn't afford to run against them too much because they were playing catch-up. The Titans, in essence, would love to play a game of keep away.
26th birthday, and he's got a touchdown. Touchdown, Tennessee. You called it.
But Henry has to be effective early and often if that's going to happen. And what about the Titans' ability to stop Baltimore's rush attack? Tennessee held opposing ball carriers to 4 yards a carry. That was 7th best. But Baltimore has faced plenty of teams with good rushing defenses, and none of them had any answers. So the Titans will likely have to come up with something unusual to try and snuff out what Baltimore has cooking. Okay, time now for some predictions. We saw 4 different YouTube viewers nail the Titans' Pats score last week. Keep those predictions coming in the comments section. For now, here's 6 of ours.
Fake to Ingram. Jackson back. Floats one towards the middle. It's caught for the touchdown. Mark Andrews.